2,000 subs. Oh. But that's not the way we've always done it. Money you earn and the win. My cool ski chalet. Did I say robot? Just a matter of time before it renders you. Welcome to a world of fantasy and magic.
You, Batman Pants. What's your name? Jeez, that's what it's all about, right? But that's not all.
I did another video. That one was slower. Mike. Who are you a CPA and you don't know Peter Linto? Okay. It takes Logan forever to say anything.
Yeah, the first thing we need to do is we need to find.
The status of your tax return is that we're working on it.
Hutchins and Sons will complete your accounting with the utmost professionalism and accuracy.
That's not a Tootsie Roll. Cut. You just made a fart joke a few months ago. You realize they're gonna pay people to transcribe this.
Oh, it's 1:45.
Carrots? Really?
Oh, he's back. Prices of your 1040 services. We're making a tier list. Let's talk about these gentlemen. Specifically, Mike and Nancy Miller in the top left, and Glenn Harrell in the top right. Yeah, awful. Guy in the comments that's like, oh, I was doing that in 1985. Ha.
That's Peter Linto.
Oh, it's all here.
You got Q's, I got A's. When did you make the jump to start your own firm, and how did you know it was time? The year was 1993. I went to South America and I did ayahuasca. I'm just kidding. It wasn't any like ta-da thing. My firm story, I came to a firm, I think it was about 11 years ago now. They had a few partners. I built a cast practice within that firm. That cast practice kept growing and growing, and eventually I was like, I need to buy this now. Otherwise I'm gonna pay for a bunch of stuff that I built myself. So I own a firm with a couple partners. That was the extent of the rationale for why I would buy into it. But how do you know what the right time is? I think everybody thinks, oh, I gotta have those clients lined up. It's about the work. But I actually think it's more about you knowing exactly what it is you want to do and having a network within that group so that when you do go out on your own, there's something immediately that you can do for them. So who are the people you wanna help? Let's say it's software development companies. Do you have a great network of people there already so that when you put your shingle out and say, hey, I can now do X, Y, and Z for you, you're gonna have a few people jump on board. You're ahead of the curve then because you're starting with specificity, which is great, and you got your first few clients right away. Anybody else watch that 30-day Ryan Trahan thing?
Good morning, sleepyheads.
Got you turned on to iced coffee? Oh. Rita, I'd love to hear your weekly, monthly schedule approach. How much time do you spend and when on client work versus video stuff versus staff stuff? I'll bite that one off first. I wrangle firm stuff during the week. That's my 8 to 5. I'm pretty much out of client work, so we've got a team of about 35. My role is not really client-facing anymore. I'm primarily systems and people-facing, so helping oversee change of systems and ensuring we've got the people that we need to service our clients. But that's really my 8 to 5. Usually if I'm shooting videos, it's on the weekends, and then during the week I'll sprinkle in like connecting with other firms, doing stuff through my accountant community, that sort of thing. How do you block off days, weeks, hours to be most productive? Not a huge time blocking guy, but I very aggressively don't do the things that I don't need to be the one to do. So I delegate like crazy. If I don't have somebody I can delegate a thing to, I'm gonna go out and find the person I can delegate that thing to in pretty much any area of my life. The one thing I am really mindful of is what are the times of day where I am best at certain things. So there's certain things I'm much better at in the morning. before the kids are up, or things I'm much more productive at the end of the day. If I don't want to do something, the worst time I can do it is at the end of the day. So oftentimes I'll save for the end of the day the stuff I'm really excited about, because when I get into it, it doesn't feel like work. And that's the only thing I can really do productively at the end of the day. So I don't really time block as much as be mindful of when in a day I'm gonna try to tackle certain things. When do you allocate free thinking time? Oh boy, when I work out, I've actually stopped listening to podcasts, sometimes even music when I exercise. I exercise for an hour to an hour and a half every morning before anybody else is up. And forcing yourself to be alone with your thoughts, I think that's really valuable. That's when 90% of the thinking I do throughout the day comes up. Like that's where the creativity comes up, the good ideas. So that's really valuable time for me. Doc and Biscuit, Logan. Definitely Logan. Well, Logan was my first Twitter friend. And it's funny if you go back and look at our original DMs. When I first joined Twitter, I was super into building out our accounting services. That was my day-to-day, and I was looking for people who were doing the same, share ideas, learn from. So that was the context in which I reached out to Logan. He was talking about CAS stuff. I said, hey, you just want to jam on CAS stuff sometimes? And he was like, sure. Logan at that point in time didn't have a CAS practice. He still doesn't have a CAS practice. He literally catfished me into our initial conversation, which should have been a warning sign at that point that that was how the rest of the relationship would be. But since then, we have been together IRL twice. Last 2 years, AICPA Engage. And met so many other great people while we were there. If y'all aren't doing accounting conferences, you're missing out. So much fun. How did you find and convert clients who wanted the more personal touch beyond the portal that you discussed in our Why Our Firms Suck video? So I talked about our firm going more white glove, being happy to go the extra mile, oftentimes work with the client how they want to be worked with rather than putting something on rails necessarily, as long as they're happy to pay for that. Would be curious to know how you convinced them. What services did you offer? Did you bring up the conversation or did the client? I don't know that we converted people as much. We've always been more on the white glove end of the spectrum. We have not always known that was us. I think like a lot of firms, we just did all of that, but we didn't necessarily price it and talk about it, acknowledging that it was very white glove. You go out and you benchmark yourself against firms who are not white glove, price accordingly. I think we are much more self-aware now so that when clients have questions and say, help me understand fees or what is different for your firm versus others, is that we are very white glove and there's people out there that are happy to pay for that. In terms of like getting clients to use portals, in this type of firm, it's not the way it is for all firms, but in our type of firm, a portal is useful in situations where clients can self-service. So not all clients are this way, but honestly this day, most people will sooner grab something themselves if they know how to do it than ask for it. It's not the case for all clients, but the fact that 25% of your clients will still always ask for it is not a reason to not have self-service for 75% of your clients. So even in a very white glove model, if you give somebody access to a portal where they can get all the tax returns and financial statements and all that stuff that they need, people will still do that. Converting, to me, the word converting always feels like you're taking someone from their homeostasis to a place they don't necessarily want to be. That's always my first impression when I think converting. In my firm, what we instead look at is how can we improve this through the lens of the client? How can they better understand the process to make their lives easier? Now, that's not how all firms are going to be set up. The other end of the spectrum is firms who design the systems the way they want to work, and clients then have to interface the way that they want to work. That's totally fine. That's just a different type of firm than what we're doing. So for us, it's not converting as much as improving upon what we're doing, and then seeing how many people willingly engage with that. And those things that clients get excited about will stick, we'll keep doing year over year. How do you convince people to follow the process for the greater good / goals? On the client side, it's a balancing act between meeting them where they're at and telling them, no, I'm the expert. This is the optimal process you need to follow. So we're moving towards kind of, here's what we want the annual cadence for all of our clients to be. Based on everything we know about this profession that the client doesn't know, this is how you should plan your year. And so through the client lens, probably just like anything else, if you're a tax firm and they try to tell you how to prepare a tax return, be like, no, we're the pro. I think the same logic applies when you build out your services and what clients should be doing throughout the year. You know best. And if they don't think you know best, or they won't go along with that, then they're just not the client for you. Internally on the staff side, oh, that's harder. How do you convince people to follow the process? It depends on what people are used to inside of a firm. I think you've got a lot of traditional firms where people had the freedom to put things together however they wanted to, whatever was easiest for them, which honestly is gonna vary from client to client. You got a big complex thing, the process for that big complex thing probably looks different than that process for the little very simple thing. But when people are used to having that freedom, it's very hard to get them to commit to a different process. It takes time, never goes as quickly as you'd like. I always try to focus on proving successes. Find something that works very well, and if it truly is better for people, and people are incentivized the way I want them to be incentivized, then they will adopt. Oftentimes the problem is people genuinely don't care if something is faster for them or easier for them. Oftentimes they would rather do something the same, even if the alternative is faster, because they just appreciate that stability. But that problem usually stems from a lack of alignment on incentives. So if they aren't incentivized to handle more revenue worth of clients or be higher output, then they're not gonna go outside their comfort zone to make that change or consider that new process. Safe harbor, I'd be interested in hearing about tech, specifically geared towards someone who has no tech, is trying to get more modern. Best place to start, I've got an 8-week tech workshop series. It's CPE eligible. Week 1 is probably the best overview of tech I've ever done. Obviously tech is a very broad thing, but that's a good starter to kind of get you comfortable with cloud tech. For accounting firm specific tech, probably check out my email newsletter where I'm plugged into like updates to the tools in our space and what makes sense for like intake workflows versus managing engagements and all that stuff. When are you starting your video production agency? Already started, about 12 months ago. David Crank, congrats. I wanna know how you handle email. Is there a better way than how we're all doing it? It is a life sucker for sure. So many thoughts. So I can tell you how I did it until my admin went on maternity leave. We had a pretty good cadence. First and foremost, pick when you're gonna do email. Email is not a constant thing. The worst thing you can do is leave email open all day long. Constant distraction. So you decide when you're gonna do email, otherwise it's closed. The cadence we settled into for me, I would do email once a day from 10 to 11, 10 to noon. It was my admin's responsibility to go through there before 10 o'clock every morning, pull out everything that she could handle. She would send me FYIs for a lot of stuff she would respond to so that I was still in the loop. And when I came in to do email, my working folder is never the inbox because the inbox is constantly changing. There's always new things coming in the inbox. If you're working out of the inbox, you're constantly discouraged and it's distracted because there's new stuff coming in, right? So I worked out of a separate folder. She pulled everything into that folder after she had reviewed it all. So tax return requests, financial statement requests, basic stuff, she handles all that. Just sends me a single FYI that's a digest of all the stuff I just need to be in the loop on. Anything I absolutely have to be the one to do, yeah, a lot of that is her like delegating to other people in the team too. But the stuff that's left over that I have to do, I hop in and do at 10, not in the inbox folder, and that's it. We do the same thing again the next day. She's gone right now. Been a big pain in the butt. I shared on Twitter the other day, I've started using Superhuman for email. I was a Superhuman skeptic for years. That's really nice. So first and foremost, don't leave it open all day. If you have more than 2 monitors, it's because you're leaving email or team chat open on a monitor. Do not do that. Second, pull somebody in to help. In all likelihood, 80% of those things you don't need to do yourself. Third, give Superhuman a try. It's pretty cool. Ashley the CPA, he should turn all of us regular boring CPAs into compelling TikTok superstars by good lighting and aggressive use of blur feature. Logan is more than good lighting and blur away from being a compelling TikTok superstar.
Make the letters that we send out in a format where tax professionals can't scan them. That'll do it.
But partnering with other people to produce video stuff, I've thought about it. If you've got something rad that you want to put together, shoot me a message. Can you include podcast production? I struggle. To be honest, Chad Davis does most of our podcast production stuff. So we use Transistor for publishing. I've got a SM7B that I record on and a Zoom F6 using Squadcast for capture. And then I've got a sound engineer who cuts all that stuff together because the bits and all that stuff that we do, like the audio production on that stuff is way over my head.
You pass me that weenie roaster? Pardon?
I got a podcast, Automation Town. It's fun. Automation stuff that's like not super technical. Okay, how about what podcasts do you follow and why? Let's take a look. I am super into comedy, you may have guessed, especially in the last couple years, comedy writing. So the ones I've listened to the most, big fan of Smartless. I loved Arrested Development, so that's just very nostalgic for me. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. Those are my 2 funnies. Colin and Samir Show. They talk about creator economy. I think that's interesting. Waveform Podcast. I really love Marquez Brownlee and his YouTube channel. A little bit of Reply All every now and then. That's about it. And a smattering of accounting stuff. Podcasting is usually how I get out of the accounting headspace. It's kind of the one thing that I consume that takes me out of accounting. Fanchon and beg. Is it pronounced like A an egg or A an apple? I'm begging you. So in Automation Town, we automated how to send somebody a bag of ducks, and I was evidently saying beg instead of bag, and Dan was really mad. It's just a classic Dan thing to say. What do other partners in your firm think about your internet celebrity, and do they ever ask you for Tony Nitty's cell phone number.
Look who we stumble upon, Mr. Tony Nitty.
Here's the thing. When you see somebody else do something like this, the first thing you think is, oh, if I did that, how embarrassing would that be? All the people I would know would see it. How would I explain it to my mom or my partner? Truth is, when you do something like this, nobody gives it. Nobody in my firm, yeah, it's not true, a couple. Nobody in my family, nobody in my friend groups, nobody in my real life watches or cares about any of this stuff that I do. They're interested, they're like, what are you up to kind of thing, and you tell them about it. But they're not watching these videos. Even accountants have no interest in this. The people who actually engage in this are like such a tiny subset of a subset. So my partner and everybody else, they know about it, but they don't engage with it. Most people, I don't know if it's that they're not learners, but most accountants, they're just not plugged into that stuff. What brand are your t-shirts? They look like my Patagonia ones, which makes you look a thin, flexible surgical instrument for exploring or dilating a passage of your body. I think that's bougie. I don't know that I had ever seen bougie written out, which makes you bougie crunchy. And do you steam or iron them? All good questions. I think this is Old Navy. I'm about to go to the lake. Hang on, there's swim trunks down there. The little chest pocket shirts that I might be getting too old for, I think those are J. Crew. I need large tall sizes. I'm a big boy. There's not that many that do talls. So for me, that usually means J. Crew, the Old Navy, Banana Republic, Gap stuff, they all do tall sizes, but J. Crew, don't know if that's bougie crunchy. The hair's always confused me. Are those hair ties, sweatbands, scrunchies? They show up randomly. That's a great question, Greg. Let's go back through the old timeline. Back in the early days, high and tight. Not much to it. Things started getting longer then. I wanted to grow it out, totally grow it out. Eventually I just gave up. First appearance of the headband was the Zero video. That was September of 21. Here's the trouble, when your hair gets real long up top, it doesn't go backwards. Nobody tells you hair doesn't go backwards on its own. You have to make it go backwards somehow. And I'm shooting these videos on the weekend, nap time. Kids just went down, I got about 2 hours, get down to biz. Did I shower that day? I don't know. It's where the headband comes in nice. So headband continued through around February of 22. So the headband had about a 5 or 6 month run. Finally got long enough to where it would hold itself back, but then I ended up cutting it. I went shorter. Leveled up my product game a little bit. Tell you what though, it's been a journey. How does one know a company is growing too fast? I clarified what type of company, said a small biz bookkeeping firm. Could be a number of different things. Could be you're having to make compromises on your hires. I've been in this position. You're growing really fast, it's really exciting, but you can't hire good people fast enough. And the result is you're kind of fudging that bar a little bit, letting some people in that you may not have otherwise let in. That's definitely a sign of growing too fast because that will absolutely backfire on you. If half those people don't work out, you're back to square one and now you're committed to all this work without having the people who can do it. Other signs you're growing too fast, you're letting stuff in the door for too cheap. So if it's hard for that work to be profitable, chill out, slow down, take in a quarter of what you're taking in now, but the best quarter. The people who will pay the best, people who are the best fit for what you actually do. I think lack of specificity may also be a signal. If you're taking anything and everything, you're probably growing a ton just by default. But when you do that, you're inheriting a bunch of junk clients from other accountants who are getting more specific and increasing their prices. So you gotta be specific and you gotta be aggressive on pricing. Otherwise, when I get more and more specific and when I raise my prices and I cut those clients loose, they're all going to you, and you don't want everybody else's leftovers, right? You want the people who are perfect for you. I could really use some tips on video production. I'm just in the concept phase, so I'm a blank slate needing some baseline info for getting started in that arena. That's awesome. Honestly, I think 10 times the number of people need to be investing in video. Not to ever have grand ambitions of doing something epic, but just because people love seeing your face. Your clients have already subscribed. Give them an opportunity to see more of you, and you're gonna build so much more trust with them in a really high leverage way. You make a video and 80 people watch it, you're inside their heads. They better understand what you're doing. There's just so much value to that. But where to start? Best advice I can give people, just hit record. Do a whole ton of it. Don't overthink it. The most important thing is simply repetitions. And the more you do it, the more you watch other people's video, the more you'll understand what you like about what you see and what you don't like about what you see in other videos. This video I think is actually coming out at the perfect time. I'm doing a 1 hour how to get comfortable with video thing at Nio's virtual conference. I think I can promote that now. If I can, you will see the stuff on screen right here. It's free. It's gonna be super fun. Come hang out with me live when we do that. It's gonna be rad. I also have a video course that I made last year. I'll link to that as well. Your review of PBC was pretty epic. That's the one where I got absolutely shredded for not knowing who Sugar Bear was.
Sir, that's Peter Alinto. His voice is ingrained in my head from Becker. How to tell someone didn't use Becker if they don't recognize Peter Alinto. Something tells me you didn't use Becker to pass your exams if you don't know who Sugar Bear Alinto is. How are you a CPA and you don't know Peter Alinto?
That's Peter Alinto.
Hello, can't believe you don't know Sugar Bear. I think I appreciate you more for not knowing who Alinto is.
Sugar-free vanilla. The secret is about half the time they don't actually give you sugar-free. I was reminded that QuickBooks is a software company when I said I was not a fan of their training. What are your pros and cons of QBO? Oof. Pros of QBO. It is the first accounting platform that third-party developers build for. So I'm an ecosystem guy. I think enabling the ecosystem is always the most surefire way to get cool stuff, as opposed to just one company, the accounting ledger, trying to make everything. Everybody is building for QBO. In the North American market, Xero is an afterthought. Once they have a go-to-market strategy for QBO, then they build for Xero. Because the reality is, if their QBO integration doesn't work, the Xero one doesn't matter. That's the biggest thing QBO has going for it. And QBO's gotten like way better over the years, much better than it used to be. Cons, obviously support's a real struggle. They're making investments there, so hopefully it gets better. And the reality is, right now, Intuit's leadership team has never been less accountant focused. Accounting professionals are still a big part of what Intuit does, but it's no longer their number one priority. And I don't know if that's anyone's fault. I mean, the leadership team's job is to drive value for investors, and they're definitely doing that. You know, like the TurboTax Live stuff they've done has been super successful. QuickBooks Live is another really big bet. So I think you just have to expect Intuit to act from a place of self-interest, and that may not always align with your needs. That being said, Intuit's building the only cloud-based tax software right now, ProConnect. They've got the best in-ecosystem integration, pushing stuff from QBO to ProConnect. They're doing some things that nobody else is doing. The built-in month-end close stuff for QBO I think is really interesting if they keep investing there. So tough spot, but the reality is QBO's the monster at the center of the cloud accounting universe right now, whether you like it or not. I always tell people, do not feel trapped by Intuit products by any means. You can build a super profitable practice without using any Intuit products, so you're by no means trapped. But QBO is miles better than it was early days. Will there be actual juggling? We have here 3 pairs of socks for a tiny person. Hey, want to talk crypto accounting with me? No. Money, money, money sounds greedy, but it's what we need to survive. Is that a question? I agree. Money. Any thoughts I have on money? I think most people aren't aware how much money you can make in a small accounting firm, particularly tax. You can run a really crotchety, old, hourly billing, legacy tax practice and make an outrageous amount of money. You can also run a super cool, new agey, future modern accounting firm and make a bunch of money. So I think that is always surprising to people when they see how much money mature firms can actually make. But that being said, there's 100 ways to make money in this industry. Even doing accounting facing stuff like I'm doing a bit of now has been really fun for me. There's a lot of jobs not in an accounting firm within the accounting ecosystem that you can make a great living doing. Advising firms on automation, being the Airtable expert for accountants, you know, stuff around video. So many people have questions on video right now. There's a whole kind of like sub-economy there that I think is really interesting. What are some things you would tell students who are about to become accountants that they aren't prepared for? There's more out there than the big 4. I wish somebody had told me that. Everybody was just like trying as hard as they could to get those job offers from those cool firms that would send them to Disney World to do training for a week. But that is a lifestyle you do not want. Well, most people don't want long term. When I came out of school, I didn't really understand the different contexts in which you could do accounting. Like I had no idea that little accounting firms were even a thing. So helping them to understand the difference between auditing, tax, other types of assurance stuff, just like straight up bookkeeping, big public firms, little public firms, private accounting. Just having an understanding of those different things, you'll have an inkling of maybe some things you like more than others, but the most valuable thing you can do is get experience in a bunch of them, because you never know what you're gonna like until you do it. I started in tax, turned out I really enjoyed the accounting side more. I got a whiff of bigger firms, turned out I really enjoyed the smaller firm stuff more. So my best advice is probably try to get exposure to as much as you can, because you don't know what you're gonna like until you do it, right? Any other questions? Drop them in the comments. I am so appreciative of y'all for coming and hanging, making this channel into what it is. Sometimes I look at the stuff we've done and it's so absurd and I think so unique. I'm really proud of it. And it's because along the way we've attracted like-minded accounting weirdos that are into this stuff that will champion something different. And I wanna keep pushing on that. Getting away from the stodgy stuff and making more stuff that we can like really identify with. Stuff that feels true to my personality and is not like accounting. So thanks for being here through 2K subs. You are the reason we got from 1 to 2. Now let's go do 3.